And today I just want to introduce everybody to Dr. Tracy Moon. She has been with our program, gosh, I think for over 3 years now, if I'm not mistaken, Tracy. And she's got her doctorate in occupational therapy from the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. And Tracy also has a bachelor's in exercise and sports science. She has worked in a variety of different settings in occupational therapy and really is a resource for this program that is invaluable. She's worked in home health, she's worked in acute care settings and all kinds of continuum of care facilities. And she brings that all with her to this program. Tracy is really passionate about helping our members and care partners continue to connect with the activities and the things that they love and that make them really joyful. And so she's here to share a little bit about that with us today. She's really passionate about learning and adapting for new challenges and change along the way. So, Tracy, thank you so much for being with us this week.
Of course. I'm excited to be here.
If you guys have questions for Tracy after the program or for us, this is our email, empowerment@emory.edu, where you can reach any of our staff members. But I just want to go ahead and kind of jump into this conversation about, cell phones and technology. What I'll say is that, it's something that even myself is a little bit overwhelming at time, learning all the new phone updates and every time the software changes or we update our phones. And so I'm really excited for you to come and kind of share a little bit of guidance for us. And I'll let you go ahead and pull up your slides, Tracy.
Perfect.
We have a technology component of the program here. We give our folks iPads and things like that when they come in. So this is something that we're really comfortable talking about. We are going to meet you where you're at along the way. So again, don't hold back any questions. Let us know as you have them along the way. But Tracy, I'll go ahead and let you kick us off.
Thank you, Megan. So as she mentioned, we're going to be talking today about getting your cell phones to work for you, not against you. This is something that I think causes a lot of stress in people's lives. We do a lot on our phones nowadays, especially, and it's kind of how we stay in contact with our loved ones. So we're going to dive right in. Research shows that 96% of adults age 65 and up have a phone. So most of us nowadays have a cell phone, and 61% are considered smartphones. When we talk about smartphones, we're just talking about the ones that have an actual screen, so not a flip phone or the ones that have like the actual buttons that you push. So they're basically a computer in our pockets these days. And research has shown an association between decreased use of technology and decreased engagement in everyday activities. We know that nowadays a lot is done online, even like some restaurants. You can't even call an order anymore. They just want you to order online. Or banking is done a lot online, and banks are getting smaller and smaller because they have less people inside to connect with. So my goal today is to get you just a little bit more comfortable with your phone so that hopefully you can use it the way that you want to use it and get your phone to work with you instead of against you. There's a lot that our phones can do. It can be extremely overwhelming. We, of course, can make phone calls and get text messages. We can do video calls. We can send and receive emails. We can take pictures, send pictures. We can browse the internet, look up whatever we want to these days. We can check the weather to see how we need to dress for the day or how we can prepare. We hopefully are using our GPS to get us where we need to go. We can set alarms or timers. We can use our phone as a calculator or a flashlight. So there are a lot of different things, obviously, that we can do. To the point where it can be overwhelming. All the different apps and things that we have on our phone can be a little too much. So if you're one of those people that's like, I do not use my phone because it's too much for me, then we have a couple of options before we dive into everything else that just simplify things a little bit. This RAS memory phone is available. You can buy it online or at most cell phone stores. So this one requires a some sort of phone plan, but it works with most carriers. So AT&T, Verizon, whatever one you have. And it's just very simple. You have just this list of up to 24 contacts. You can put their picture in, and then just click whoever you want to call. So you don't have to sort through 100 different apps to figure out how to get to your phone list. There's pros and cons, obviously. So it does have a nice big red emergency button, and it has a portal that you add everything into, and can check the battery strength. You can also do GPS tracking on the phone. Some of the downsides are you can't do things like email or web search. It's very simple, just used for phone calls. And then this one is the Jitterbug Smart 3. It's one step above, so still very simple. You don't have all of the apps to look through. It's just a scrolling menu of what all your phone has to offer. You can do things like make phone calls, send text messages, take and send pictures, video chatting. So a lot more access. You still have access to the internet, but again, you don't have the hundreds of apps to sort through. It's less confusing, more straightforward. So for those of us that have smartphones, most people have typically either a smart or an iPhone or an Android. So everything I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to go through the Apple version or the iPhone version, and then the after that will be the Android version of, so that's like the Galaxy phones. So this first app is one that comes pre-downloaded on all Apple products. If you have an iPhone, then you have this app on your phone. You may not know where it is or have seen it before, but it's probably hidden in one of your folders. This Find My app is really, really useful. You can share your location with your friends and family you pick. It doesn't blast your location to everybody in your phone, but you can share your location with somebody, and I encourage you to do it. My Android people, I'll get to you in just a second. But if you are not sharing your location with one person, at least, I encourage you to share your location. I know sometimes people are like, I don't want to share my location because I don't want Big Brother to know what I'm up to. But if Big Brother's going to know, he already knows. So send your location to your loved one, share it with somebody that you want to see your location for your own safety, your own protection. So in this phone or in this app, I always pull it up and show it whenever I'm showing our members this, but it's hard to see on Zoom, so I won't worry about that. But on the bottom of your screen, you have a little stick figure with their arms out, and that's Find My People. So under there would be where you would share or find your location with your loved ones. I share my location with my mom and both my sisters and my husband. If I go missing, somebody's going to be able to find me. So in that app, I can see where they're at. If my mom's coming to visit me, I can know how far away she is when she's going to get there. I can also set it to be notified if a location changes. I can find devices that are offline. So if I leave my phone at a restaurant, I can then go on to the Find My Device on Apple and figure out where my phone's at. I can also ping my phone. I do this frequently with my watch. It'll send a sound off from my phone so I can find out where it is in my house. And then if I do lose my phone, say I leave it at a restaurant and I get home and get on the website and try to figure out where it is, and I see that it's at somebody's apartment, very clearly has been picked up, I can clear my device, lock it, and clear it so that none of my personal information, my bank app is off, all of that's gone. So this app is really, really beneficial. One of the downfalls or negatives is that you have to set this up. So if you have an iPhone, again, you have this app, but if you've never seen it or been into it, then it's probably not active on your phone. So I encourage you to find it. If you cannot find it, I'm going to try to show you all this. You can slide over on your phone, and then at the top, you'll see where it says, I know this isn't very good, but at the top, you'll see where it says App Library, and you can search Find My, and it'll pull the app up for you. I know it can be a lot to try to look through all of your apps and look in all of the different folders. So you can always search it and it'll find that for you. You can open it and then share your location, find any of your devices if you have an iPad or an Apple Watch or AirPods, whatever you have. It can all connect it in that app and share the location. So I've even lost my AirPods in my dryer before and played the noise and was able to find them. So Find My is a really good app. If you have an Android phone, or if, say, in my instance, I have an Apple phone, but my husband has an Android phone, we use the app called Life 360. It is a little purple app, and it looks just like that little circle thing up here in the top left corner of my screen. So this is one that you have to download. You would go to your app store, type in Life 360, and then you can create a family circle to share your location with whoever you want to share your location with. On my app, I have my husband and my sister, and I can see where they're going. My husband can see how fast I drive to work that day. He can see how long it took me to get there, things like that. So this one does have a little bit more detail when it comes to location. And you can save a top location. So say I want to save my husband's work instead of having to zoom in on the little map and try to figure out where he's at. I can save that address as his work. So whenever he's there, it just says work. So I know right where he's at. This app is free. There are options to pay. Whenever you download the app, you'll see a free version. That is what I use. The free version has everything that you will need. The more costly versions are like roadside service and crash detection and things like that. And truthfully, if you're going to do that, I would get AAA or something. I wouldn't use Life 360. So the free version is fine. Do not pay for this app. And it's nice because, again, you can use it between different devices. Apples and Androids don't typically talk well together, but this one is nice. Say one of your kids has an Android and you have an Apple, or, whatever. Or you just want to know if somebody's speeding to work, then you can also use this app for that. So that is Life 360. And then another thing that we talk about a lot in CEP is when we have trouble with our memory, added stress or trying to do all of the things can just complicate that even more. So my personal recommendation to you is to write things down, or in this case, record things. If you are thinking about what all you have to do, the groceries that you need to get to go home and cook your family dinner, and then you have a doctor's appointment that morning, and you're going into that doctor's appointment and want to remember everything that doctor tells you, plus your grocery list, plus what time your grandson's soccer game is on Saturday, then you are just putting more stress on yourself than is necessary. So these apps help alleviate some of that. If you have an iPhone, then this Apple Voice Memos app, again, is pre-downloaded on your device. You just have to search it if you don't see the little red and white stripes on it. But in that app, you can record whatever you need to record. If it's a doctor's appointment, you could go to that app and just push play or push start, and it will record the doctor's appointment. So that way you don't have to, down the road, go back home and try to tell your family members what was said, or remember how you're supposed to take the medicine that they gave you, or whatever it might be. This app is just nice because, again, you're not having to fill your brain with more and more stuff. You can kind of brain dump. It's there for you to go back and listen to whenever you want. And you can also do things like I mean, even your grocery list, if you don't want to type it all out, you can voice record and just say what all you need and then go back and listen to it later or turn it to text or whatever. There's a whole lot of really good options. If you have a Samsung phone or an Android or Galaxy, then the version for you will be the Samsung voice recorder. It's red and white, this simple little app over here on the left. And again, same thing. If you're going to a doctor's appointment, it can record them. You can, in both apps, even, you can send the recording in an email. So say you have a doctor's appointment with your neurologist and you want to record the conversation and then send it to your family member, or you could record it and then turn it to text even, so it kind of makes a little paragraph, and then send it to a family member, or have it, to tell your primary care exactly what was said, or whatever. It's just one way to kind of put one thing off of your plate and have it saved in your phone. And you can change the names of the memos. So I could put neurology appointment on April 10th, or, whatever I wanted to name it for that day. And then once I no longer need it, I can delete it and be done with it. So those are the voice memo apps. And then this app is called the Magnifier. It comes pre-downloaded again on your phone. So these are things that are already built in to your phone to help you. Simple apps already built in to make your life a little bit easier. The Magnifier app, I have a lot of patients that like to use this one, especially at restaurants, because we have dim lighting. The restaurant menu writing is really tiny, so it's hard to see. So this app, you just open it, you would click the app, and it kind of looks like your camera. It's just a like screen using your camera of what's in front of you, and then some options across the bottom. So I can use this app, push the button to turn my flashlight on, and then my flashlight would turn on so that I could better see the menu if the lighting is bad, or, whatever it is I'm looking at. And then there's a sliding bar, and I could slide the bar to zoom in or zoom out as much as I wanted to. So it just makes things a little bit easier. Again, you can see I could zoom in on that little thing from here to my backyard and see what's going on. So again, just one more thing to make your life a little easier. If you're somebody that carries the magnifier in your purse, then that's also a good option. If that's what works for you, that's great. But if you ever forget that magnifier, this is just another little thing to have in your back pocket. You typically have your phone on you anyway. So this little app just gives you the ability to magnify whatever it is, and also can provide the light or change the contrast, whatever it is you're needed to be able to see your environment better. Okay, so those are apps that you can have on your phone. The next section is an SOS feature. And if you don't take anything else away from this PowerPoint, I want this to be the one thing that you do take. The SOS feature is really, really important, especially if you have a current medical diagnosis, no matter what it is. Maybe it's MCI, maybe it's diabetes, maybe it's whatever your medical diagnosis, maybe it's a heart problem. Having your SOS feature set up on your phone can give the peace of mind that the emergency personnel responding to you have the information that they need. So we're down here in Atlanta through Emory. So I always tell our members, if you go down at a grocery store, something awful happens, and you go down to a grocery store and the EMT come and get you and they take you to Emory, then you will be in luck because your medical record is in Emory. It's saved in Epic. They know everything. However, if you go down at a grocery store and they take you to Northside Hospital, then they may not have your full medical background. And if you're unconscious and cannot tell them, then that is stuff that they need to know. So we're going to go through this little step-by-step part. So your SOS features allow medical personnel to access important information quickly without needing your password. So on my phone, I have my emergency SOS set up. So on my screen, I know you're not going to be able to see it, on my screen, even though it's locked and I have a password on it, At the bottom left-hand corner where it says emergency, they can click my medical ID and they can go in there and see whatever I need them to see. They can see my emergency contact. They can call my emergency contact. They could see any medication that I'm on. And that way the EMS personnel can act promptly however they need to without having to make it a guessing game. For example, if they needed to administer medicine, but it was a specific medicine that they could not, if you were on something else, then they will not do it because they don't want to risk your life. So if I have all of this information in here, then they know, for example, if I'm diabetes, the first thing they need to check is my blood sugar. If I'm on, a specific type of medicine, then they know to not give me anything that would interact with that. So I encourage you to set this up. I'm going to go through this first on Apple and then next on Android. I want you to be encouraged that this is also going to be on YouTube, so you can go back and look at this later and pause wherever you need to pause, or, go back through things. Don't feel like if you miss this that you're done for. It'll be available online. So if you have an iPhone, you'll click your gray little settings app to open your settings. And then you'll scroll down on your screen until you see the red box that says SOS. It'll say emergency SOS next to it. So you'll click on that. And then your screen will look like this over here on the left. If you scroll down in blue, it'll say set up emergency contacts in health. So you'll click that little blue phrase. And then over here on the right is what will come up next. And if you hit edit in the top corner, that's where you can add any allergies that you have, any of your current medical conditions, any medications that you're on, whatever you would want an EMT or a doctor in a medical emergency to know. It'll all be right there. And then at the bottom, it'll give you an option for adding an emergency contact. So this, if you click the little green plus, add emergency contact, it'll pull up your contact list, and then you can add however many emergency contacts you want. Maybe you want to add your spouse and a couple of your kids, or your neighbor that is really responsive. Whoever you want to add, you can add in there as your emergency contact. And then if you see down here at the very bottom, this share during emergency call, that will share all of that information with 911. So if 911 is called, they will automatically get your medication list, your diagnoses to go ahead and give to the EMT, so they know exactly what they're responding to. So that is Apple. If you have an Android phone or a Galaxy, then you will click your settings app as well. And then under settings, you'll look for safety and emergency with the little red box. You'll notice these are similar. It's really just the wording that's a little off between Apple and Android. Once you're in safety and emergency, you will click this emergency SOS, and it will bring you to this screen. And that's where you can share the info with your emergency contacts. So right here at the very bottom is where you'll be able to add your emergency contacts. And then after that, if you hit this back button, you'll go back to your safety and emergency page. And from there is where you can add your medical information. So at the very top, it says medical info. And if you click that, then you can add your name, your medical conditions, your allergies, current medications, whatever you would want your medical personnel to know. And again, these both on Android and Apple are available even if your screen is locked. That's the biggest question I get is, well, what's the point of putting this in there? Because if they can get in my locked phone, then what does it matter? But again, they don't need that. It's available right on your home screen, and they are trained to look for that. So I encourage you to set it up if you don't have it set up yet. Okay. Another little thing that comes automatic, pre-installed, it's not a separate app, on your phones are voice commands. If you have an Apple phone, it's Siri. And if you have an Android phone, it's Google. So we'll get into Hey Google in just a second. But with Siri, you can ask any questions you would like, and she will search the internet. You can ask her what the weather is going to be for the day. You can ask her what time it is, but you can also do things like create shortcuts. So I could say, hey, Siri, call dad. And this year we'll call my dad. Or I could say, hey, Siri, give me directions to work. And if I'm in my car and my phone is up on my little thing, she will automatically give me directions to work. It'll pull up maps and I don't have to, go through all of the steps to do that. So it's nice because it cuts out some of those steps, but it also can help you find any information that you need. The downside is that you have to say Siri or hold down the button in your phone. So that's Siri. And then, like I mentioned, if you have an Android, you have the same capabilities, but it's called Hey Google. So you could say, hey Google, call Jill, and your phone will call Jill. You could say, hey Google, give me directions to the mall. You might have to be more specific than that, but your Android will pull up your maps and give you the directions that you need. The downfalls, again, are that you have to say, hey Google, or tap the microphone in the little search bar on your screen. In a noisy room with either one, Android or iPhone, it can be difficult because it will pick up whatever noise is around. So that can complicate things a little bit. Another one that I like to share is voice to text. This is really nice for sending longer text messages or taking notes in your phone. So again, my advice to everyone is to brain dump, to get as much off of your mind as you can and store it somewhere. Texting can be hard because it takes a lot of dexterity, and sometimes our fingers are bigger than the buttons, and it just causes more frustration than it's worth. So voice to text is a nice alternative. And you just push the little microphone button. So if you have an Android phone, your keyboard probably looks like this, the top one, and your microphone is up here in the top right corner. So to do this, your keyboard does have to be open. So you would have to go into a text message and open, tap the bar to text. And then once your keyboard is open, then you can push the microphone to do voice to text. Or, if you're on the internet, you would tap in the bar on Google, and then you could do voice to text there. But the keyboard has to be open. And then you can just say whatever you want to say, and it'll type it out, whether it's in a note to save for later or a text message or whatever, however you want to use it. If you have an iPhone, your keyboard will probably look like this one on the bottom, and your voice to text microphone is in the bottom of your keyboard. So down here in the bottom right, you would just tap that keyboard, and then I could, again, make my grocery list or whatever, send a text message to somebody telling them about my day, whatever I wanted to do. I could do it through voice instead of having to type out every word. And then the last little thing that we're going to talk about today is accessibility features. So our phones have came a really long way and have a lot of settings that we can change to help make things a little bit easier. So much like a building has a wheelchair ramp to make things a little bit easier for somebody that can't do steps, or a bathroom has the larger handicap stall for easier mobility with grab bars. Our phones have the same accessibility features to make things a little bit easier for those of us that have vision problems or dexterity problems or hearing problems, whatever it might be. Our phones have a lot of options, an overwhelming amount of options, but I'm going to go over just a few so that you know what is available to you, and then you can play around with it a little bit after this PowerPoint or as we go, because of course I have screenshots and we're going to go through it. So if you go into your settings, whether you have an Android or an Apple phone, your accessibility guy is this guy with his arms spread out wide. That is the technology accessibility symbol. So like on those parking spots, at the grocery store, they have the handicap sign with the wheelchair. This guy with his arms open wide is the technology accessibility symbol. So maybe vision is a little bit hard for you. Maybe you have cataracts or macular degeneration or, just older eyes, and it's harder to see your phone because it's so small. There are a lot of options here, and I'll go into how to get to them in a second, but there are a lot of options to make seeing your screen easier. So you can do things like zoom in on your screen. You can change the contrast so that it's a heavier contrast. You can make your text bold instead of just the regular text. You can also make your text bigger through a sliding bar. You can have your phone read your text messages to you. You can adjust the brightness to your phone. I'm sure that you all have been victim to when you go outside and then come inside and you can barely see your screen because it's adjusted to the lighting. You can change that so that it doesn't do that anymore and it just stays one set brightness. So if this is something that you're interested in, or maybe one day might be interested in, you would go to your settings icon. And if you have an iPhone, this is the iPhone version. If you have an iPhone, you would scroll down in your settings to accessibility, this little blue guy with his arms out wide. Click on accessibility. And then you'll see this section is labeled vision. So this whole little section of things are specific to if seeing your screen is hard. If you want to change your text size, for example, you would click on display and text size right here. And then I could click this little switch on the right-hand side to make my text bolder. And then if I clicked larger text, the one right underneath it, oh, I don't have the next slide. If I clicked larger text, then it would be a sliding bar that I could slide to make my font bigger. And it'll show you what it looks like, bigger or smaller. But it will change the size of your text for your entire phone. So for your emails and your text messages, for your contact list, for all of it, your text size will now be permanently larger. You can also increase contrast. So down here in the middle, if I were to click that little switch, it would just make things higher contrast instead of this like grayscale. Everything's kind of like lighter gray and then a little bit lighter gray, and it will stop that and just be black and white so that it's very clear to see what's going on your screen. If you have an Android, similar process. You would go to your settings app and then again, look for your little accessibility guy. This one is green, but still there with his arms wide open, and it says accessibility. And then from there, you can see that it has the same categories. So if your screen is hard to see, then you would click the vision category. And then from there, you can go to screen zoom and font, and you will have the little sliding bar to make your font bigger. You can also click the high contrast little switch to make it high contrast instead of the grayscale. You can have the keyboard specifically. The keyboard, sometimes it's hard to really tell the difference between the buttons, so that will make your keyboard high contrast. So again, a lot of options that you could play around with. And maybe you can see your screen just fine, but maybe it's a little bit harder to hear when somebody calls, or you have trouble when you're texting. You often like double tap a letter and you get tired of backspacing all the time, or you maybe have tremors and it's hard to get right on the letter that you're looking to type. So if one of those are an issue for you, then you can do things like change your touch sensitivity so that you have to push a little bit harder and it only picks up the ones that you're physically pushing a little bit harder on. You can also turn on ignore repeat. So if, for example, you have tremors, this will not pick up if you just, are accidentally double tapping something. Um, you can use text prediction, which is nice. Your phone kind of predicts your sentence for you. So that way you just have to touch the word. Typically, like 3 or 4 words will pop up. I use this because it's easier and quicker. But text prediction will pop up like 3 or 4 words, and then you can just click which word. And if it's not there, then you type it. But it gives you some options that could make it a little bit easier. Most hearing aids now can be connected to your phone via Bluetooth. So if you have hearing aids, you could turn it on so that your phone calls come in straight through your hearing aids. That way you're not having to put your phone up to your hearing aid and getting all of that awful feedback. You can also turn on LED flash for alerts. So instead of your phone just ringing and vibrating, your flashlight will actually flash to let you know that someone is calling or sending you a text message, something like that. You can also turn up the sound amplification. Our phones are preset to what is considered an acceptable ampage, whatever, decibel. So with this one, it lets you kind of bypass that. So you can turn your volume up past what the recommended volume is if hearing your phone is hard. And then, of course, you can use Hey Google or Siri if navigating to all the different things in your phone is difficult. So to get to these features, you would, again, click your settings, go to accessibility. If you're already in there from last time, you can just stay in there, your little accessibility department. And then it's the same categories basically as it was with vision. So under vision, you'll see the next little section for motor, and then the next little section down for hearing. So if you want to look at something like reducing the repeated taps or increasing your touch sensitivity, then you would go to touch right here, the very top one. Voice control, you can turn that on, whatever you want to do. And again, you can play around with these and always just turn them on, try it, and then turn it back off if it doesn't work for you. And then here is the hearing section. So this is where you could turn on connecting your hearing devices, your audio visual. You could add subtitles. You even can have live captions in conversations, like your phone will close caption a conversation and write out what somebody is saying. So that's nice. And then again, very similarly with Android, settings, accessibility. And then you would use the hearing section if you wanted to connect one of the hearing strategies. And then dexterity and interaction would be the one to go to for increasing the touch sensitivity or turning on the ignore repeat, whatever it is you want to look at. And that is it. So I'm going to stop sharing. I know that was a lot of information to give you in 45 minutes, but again, this is going to be on YouTube later, so you can go back and look at it and pause wherever you want to be at and whatever you want to look at. And always feel free to send us an email and I will get back to you because I know it's a lot.
That was so helpful though, Tracy. There's so many things I think that we forget that help is available and at the tip of our fingers. And even as we were going through some of the settings and things, I thought, oh, it's never a bad time to go back through your phone and just check what those settings are, whether you've got a few, 30 minutes or so kind of hanging out and sitting on the sofa, taking a little bit of time to go through all those settings and just checking in to see, am I using what is available to me? And so
Yeah.
many of us, we spend a lot of money and have the nice phones and the smartphones, and they can do all these things. But if we're not using the features, it is something that is good to be reminded of how many that are there for us. And we've gotten some comments into the chat that, wow, that was very good and useful information. I love what you said about, I didn't even think about this, the tremors, having that second tap be ignored could be huge, and having someone who's having a little shake on their hands feel more comfortable and less stressed about using their phone on a regular basis. I think that one is so brilliant. And some of these, like you said, are you wouldn't even realize how far the technology has come in the past few years. One of our viewers said, yes, prediction and amplification are the ones that she wants to start using. And I've put a little question into the chat. Do any of these accessibility features seem helpful? Which ones will you try? Oh, also the captions. I didn't even think about captions for phone conversations and live conversations and things like that. What a great resource for somebody that feels like they just need that little bit of information to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, our phones really have come a long way to make them more user friendly, but you don't know what all is available to you out there until you either look. I mean, even when I made this PowerPoint, I was learning so much about what all was even available on our phones. But once you know, then it's a little easier to go in and play with all of the options and see what works for you and what doesn't. Maybe you turn on your text as large as it'll go and you end up not liking it, then you can just go in and turn it back down. So I want to encourage you to not be afraid to just play with your phones. I know sometimes it can seem overwhelming, but if you go in and turn things on and you hate it, then you can turn it back off. It's not a permanent
Yeah.
setting.
And Casey said in the chat, I would like the read feature, having your phone read a website out loud to you versus trying to read those tiny texts could be a huge moment of empowerment for somebody who maybe has stopped using their phone search options for that
Yeah.
very reason.
Yeah.
One of the other ones I also thought in the beginning of your presentation was really useful, and it's one that I'm not using, but I should be using, is some of the talk to text features. Instead of sitting there for 20 minutes and using these tiny little things and backspacing and things like that, that we can just say it with that little microphone button and have the text be recorded right into the text without spending 15 minutes putting a text together, especially for those of us who have like grandkids running around or whatever is kind of chaotic, and it may be even a longer period of time to put together some of those texts.
Yeah.
Isadora said, oh yes, you've opened up so many helps that we can use presently. Now it makes me wonder if these are reasons my husband doesn't use his cell phone as much.
Yeah.
Totally. You guys are paying the bill. So let's get the most use out of those cell phones and make sure that, we've got all of the things lined up to feel like they're useful to us and not something that's working against us.
Yeah.
So
I
some of
think even voice recording, I think we so often like overcomplicate things and think about like writing everything down or, trying to memorize so much when we could just make a voice memo, say into our phone, and then go back and play it later. That way it's down, it's recorded, but it's not something that's a hassle to take care of.
This one could also be a great one for care partners, right? I'm leaving for the afternoon. I'm going to send you a voice memo about all the things that I need you to do or remember or keep track of. And that is a nice way to do it in a loving tone that, is a really nice way to keep track of things. So there's a lot of thank yous coming into the chat. Thank you for Tracy. And I just want to, again, say thank you for bringing all your expertise in occupational therapy and really merging it with technology. And that's something that you're so great at, Tracy. So thank you for that offering today.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Well, we'll be back next week to talk about how stress can impact your memory and some memory cues and workarounds and strategies in those stressful moments. And one thing we can do this week to lower our stress is get a little more comfortable with those phones. So thank you for that encouragement. Hopefully this helps make the rest of the week a little bit easier. And we'll be back next week on Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and we'll post this video to YouTube later on tomorrow afternoon. Thank you so much, Tracy.